tried to work it out.
Hey students, welcome to episode 31 of the Film Student Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Lazzaroni. This week, my guests are Frank Spiro and Mike Schiff from the Green Cohort. The two of them are working on a new web series called Diagnosis Boring, which is currently seeking funding on Indiegogo. We talk about the show and its origins, as well as about Frank and Mike's experience at the Harold Ramis Film School and what they've been up to since graduation. One quick note, the first voice you're going to hear on this episode is Frank's. On with the show.
I'm surprised we can breathe.
It's about a girl, Jess, who's diagnosed as being fatally boring. Kind of takes place in this surreal, absurdist world.
This is, of course, based on real life.
Based on real life, 100%. It actually kind of is in that, like, it's this surreal world, and it's really meant to be a metaphor for depression. Mm-hmm. And I've talked about this on some videos on our Indiegogo page and things like that. But when I was diagnosed as depressive, I was super surprised by it because I thought that depression was like being sad.
Yeah.
But I just felt super bored and boring all the time.
Yeah.
So I was pretty surprised.
Okay. But is that the character experiencing the same thing and they're interpreting it to be boring, or is that a case of like you've now just kind of taken this, what if boredom were actually something you could be diagnosed with?
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Okay.
It's like kind of like takes a sane character in an insane world approach, where Jess is the sane character, and the rest of the world is just so goddamn interesting.
And you two are co-writing it?
No, I wrote it, sent it over to Mike, who is producing it.
Yeah, I like the idea. I think, mental illness is an interesting topic and not talked about a lot.
Yeah.
I think now it's become a kind of like a hot topic almost recently, but not to the point where I think it's like over talked about. I think the more people talk about it, the more we get it out there. Like just, this summer, like many NBA players are coming out talking about it. And that's like a great thing for like athletes now, like to talk about it. Like, so I think just getting it more out there and like kind of losing the stigma around it, and not to the point where like it's becoming like a trend or a fad. Like, because you could see people like thinking like, ooh, depression or mental illness is cool. Like, that's not what we're trying to get across here.
Get your depression on.
Yeah, like I think what we're trying to do is say like, people that are dealing with these issues, like they feel like, they're normal and the world is crazy sometimes, and everyone kind of has a different like flavor of it, and this is one particular kind of way of expressing that. So I liked the idea. I was, like we mentioned up top, we were in the same cohort at Harold Ramis, so we knew each other for the last year, and so knew we kind of got along in terms of like working together and also just more socially. We worked on a couple other projects together throughout our time, so I think it just kind of, both the idea and the person was what attracted me to this project.
Yeah, Mike and I ran the Green Cohort. We just, ask anyone. We'll fight anyone about it. Yeah.
So I'm curious for both of you, since I haven't had you on the show before, how did you both end up going through the program here?
Ooh, I was in New Orleans. And I had graduated from Tulane University, and I was just kind of hanging around New Orleans for a while. And I was doing comedy down there.
Like stand-up, improv?
Sketch comedy. And I had started doing improv comedy. I did sketch comedy in college, and I also ran a satirical newspaper in college. Okay. So I was pretty sure I wanted to do comedy. Yeah. And I had also done some film stuff. I had done like a semester abroad of film school in the Czech Republic, and it was awesome.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I actually heard about the Harold Ramis Film School on a podcast. And
that seems, I think a lot of people did. The most common one I heard was not I heard about it on a podcast, but a friend heard about it on a podcast and then told me because they were like, hey, you're the right person that should go do that.
Which podcast was it?
Spontaneation.
Yeah, they had it. There were a couple big ones. I think Douglas Movies even had it at one point in time. Huh. They mostly went after like improv and stand-up comedy related podcasts. I think there were a bunch that they used. I seem to recall filling out some survey like right after I got here that was like, how did you hear about us? Like trying to figure out which of those actually was a good channel for them. And I don't think any of them are like consistent. It's just kind of everybody's got their own stuff that they hear it from.
Yeah, I feel like I heard about it, although I can't go back and find this tweet, but I swear I saw a tweet from Judd Apatow that said, like, check out this comedy school that I'm, like, involved with.
Interesting.
And I clicked on it thinking, oh, that sounds interesting, like at Second City in Chicago, and that took me here, I guess. But I went back to, like, try to find this tweet from him, and I couldn't find it. So I don't know if, like, it was someone else or I made it up in my head and found it a different way, but
maybe you took it down because somebody like harassed him or something.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't like maybe it wasn't
somebody from Original Orange just wouldn't leave him alone.
Right? Yeah, or maybe like he realized he didn't want to be involved with the school anymore, and he took it down himself. I don't know. I think he's still kind of involved, but yeah. So I found out specifically through the school that way. But before that, I was living in San Francisco. I kind of was working in the whole like tech world. But I had known for a while I didn't want to do that long term. I got out of college. I went to UC Santa Barbara, took a job in tech because that was kind of the best opportunities at the time. But always had this like passion for film and television. So I quit my job and I found the only film job I could find in San Francisco, which was working for Dog TV. Plug Dog TV right now. Dog TV is a 24/7 channel for dogs. Like literally, the audience is dogs.
Interesting.
They provide like a content. So if you leave your house to go to work, or even just if you're doing chores around the house, you can put this on.
I feel like you just replay Wimbledon all the time.
Yeah. Well, like so. I mean, like people do. Before Dog TV, or even right now, people do put TV on or the radio or things to keep their dog kind of
they have that box now that you can get too, the pet entertainment box that allows you, so it's this little thing you put on the floor and it's got cameras and little sensors and stuff like that, and you can actually like dial into it when you're traveling and like remote interact with your pet and even like toss treats to it and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's
crazy.
It's insane. I'm like, who is buying this? Somebody that is way too into their dog or cat.
Yeah, I had I think a friend that had that, and it was the weirdest thing, talking to the dog on his phone. And I think actually even Dog TV tried to did some partnership with them where they were like they promoted them and were even trying to like get Dog TV on that screen.
On the box,
but yeah, so I did that, but I knew it wasn't going to last forever. Like, there's only so far you could go with making content for dogs. I like to say, like, I literally started at the bottom of getting into like this industry because I was making shit. Not, can I swear on this?
Yeah.
Okay. I was making stuff for just not swear.
I was making shit like, can I swear? Sorry, I was making stuff for
animals, like not even humans yet. But then I guess I saw that tweet, the now deleted tweet from Judd Apatow.
Yeah.
And was like, I'm gonna now actually go to film school to kind of force myself to actually meet people that were in the industry.
And so it was you and your girlfriend that moved out here?
Yeah, we moved here together, and we picked Chicago partly because of the school, but partly just because we were kind of over San Francisco and wanted a new experience, try a new place.
Which this is definitely different than San Francisco and Chicago. The Midwest is its own beast.
Yeah, there's not much of like a comedy scene in San Francisco. Like, I mean, back in the day, that was like the stand-up like hub, but because of the tech industry, it's just kind of taken over a lot of the like the culture and the art, and so it's forced a lot of people out. Like now Oakland's kind of having a little resurgence with the film. Like, Sorry to Bother You came out, Blind Spotting came out,
just in time for the Raiders to leave again.
Right? Yeah. Well, and that's what's crazy is like all these sports teams are leaving Oakland, but like people are really pouring into Oakland because of San Francisco and how expensive it is.
Yeah.
So,
well, and just California in general is just, I feel like that something's got to give at some point in time with it. The whole proposition they were going to split the state up into 3 smaller states. I was like, that's actually kind of interesting. It might make sense, but I think it died pretty quickly.
Seems like there's an opportunity there, and maybe we should create our own sport and base it in Oakland.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, I think all these teams are going to leave Oakland, and then like a few years from now, they're gonna put like expansion teams in Oakland. I don't want to turn this into a sports podcast by any means, but I kind of think they don't want the Raiders to be there because with the Raiders there comes this like whole Raider Nation thing, and I could see them being like in a few years being like, oh, now we'll have this new Oakland team, and but yeah, it's interesting.
That is before we start our sockball.
Yeah,
league
softball league. Yeah,
Sockball.
Yeah.
What is sockball?
Oh, and now you've taken the pitch, and you're in, and you're willing to listen to anything.
Are there pitches in softball?
There are both pitches in softball, and there are signing to deals in softball.
Okay.
I've changed it to
softball,
I guess, which I think may already be a sport.
There's a lot of drunken middle-aged men that play that
Softball.
Softball,
And collegiate women.
and collegiate women. Yeah,
Right.
There's a kind of a divide there.
Yeah.
Between it. There's no professional. Well, there may be a professional league, not that I'm aware of though.
And one person in the middle of that Venn diagram.
Who transitioned midlife.
That's right. Maybe a coach.
So what are you two trying to do now, moving forward with this? Now that you've gone through the program, you've kind of seen, all the same stuff that I'm going through at the moment, of having to create a feature and or pilot, and then obviously you got through at least a full web series. Was that something you wrote during the program? That's something that's come afterwards.
I guess I started it during the program.
Okay.
But it wasn't anything I wrote for the program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the program's super interesting because you do so much work so quickly, and then you just kind of have to figure out what to pursue and what you want to put a bunch of time into afterwards.
Yeah. We were talking about that on another episode. Somebody was saying that I guess Angie Gaffney in one of their classes had said, this is unsustainable to do longer than a year. Like this amount of output, this amount of work in this time frame is insane.
Yeah. So I guess Mike and I were like, let's pick something that's way, way more work and do it as soon as we graduate.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the web series has been a good way of kind of like jumping back into that like extreme amount of work in a short amount of time, because we're trying to basically make this thing by the end of September. Well, produce it by the end of September, and post will happen months after. But yeah, I mean, it was weird at first because like we didn't know what we were gonna do, and it took a little. Like we knew we kind of wanted to do this, but it took a little time for us to be like, all right, let's go. Because I think the thing that the program provides, which like the film and kind of art business overall, like you don't get, is like structure, because like no one's telling you to do this. Like no one really needs another like artist in some respect. Like no one's like demanding like our web series to be made except for us in a way. So it's kind of, I at least believe this, like it more becometh on the artist to make it, and you put your stuff out there. Whereas like if you have a 9-to-5 job, like you have managers and a whole hierarchy of systems, and the school kind of provided that like top down, like here's some deadlines and all that. Which that
was tough because we did not a web series. We did a YouTube channel when I was living in DC, and it's really hard if you don't have, like, we just started putting firm deadlines on things, even though they were completely arbitrary. Like there was no, like something has to go up here, until we got to the point where we're like, all right, we want to try and do something every month or every 2 weeks or something like that, and then had to start setting that up, in which case then it started to fall apart because it got too difficult for some people to put together, because shit happens. I mean, it's tough to keep something going. Like that, this podcast, there's been a couple times I've had to record something the night before it would go up, just because schedule, like, just got crazy busy with classwork, and luckily I've stayed on it, but it's tough. You need some sort of either internal drive that you can control what you're pushing out, or some sort of overhead force that's like driving you to finish stuff on time. Yeah. So is this what's the intent for it? Is it to just be able to showcase what you guys can do and try and parlay that into something else? Is it a case of trying to sell this, or what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something that we've talked about. For me, in writing it and directing it, it's just something that I want to make. It's something that I think is, talking about Harold Ramis and the film school process, you kind of learn a lot while you're in the program, and you learn how to do things, and you learn how to write, and all of that. But what you really, for me, what I learned the most in this process and through the year-long thing is really pinpointing my own voice.
Yeah.
And it's not just figuring out how to do stuff, it's figuring out what you want to do.
Right.
And why you do these things.
And how you yourself do stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing that excites me the most about this web series to me and why I want to do it is it feels like something that is a little slice of me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's surrealist, it's absurdist, and I just think it's going to be fun to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I like about it too is like it is just hopefully going to be entertaining as it is, like as the web series, and not necessarily like, oh, you could take this and turn this into a really good like 30-minute TV show, or this really like could get me into jobs. Like I mean that your mileage may vary, but that could work for some people, I guess. I don't know, but I think if you try to really focus on like just making a great thing that's entertaining, that's the best way to go about it. And that's why I think we're making this, like, is for people to watch it as it is, not think about what could this be like if more money was poured into it, or if someone picked it up or any of that. But just as it is, it hopefully will be entertaining for people. So I think that's my ultimate goal with it.
Definitely. I think it's like 20% that and 80% that cold hard cash, baby.
Yeah. Because there's so much money in web
paycheck.
series.
Yeah.
That's what they told me when I came to this school.
Well, we just had Andy Spiro from Indian Paintbrush come through, and he was talking about it seems like one of the big channels for digital is like different distribution channels, like Instagram TV as one that he's like, I'm very interested to see what people do with that. Which is interesting because it also doesn't do landscape playback. It's only in vertical mode.
Sure.
So he was like, yeah, I'm interested to see the first series that's really going to do instead of like there's other stuff on there that's reality based, but there's really not anything that's been formatted for that display that is fiction.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm interested to see who's the first one to kind of come out of the gate and go that path with it.
Web series in general I find to be kind of interesting because I think a lot of web series are kind of like they take this one concept and it's that every episode. It's like this guy goes on a date every episode at this one restaurant, and it's that kind of thing. And I think those are great. I just don't think that's exactly what Diagnosis Boring is going to be.
Yeah.
And I see Diagnosis Boring as its own kind of narrative story.
It's like a full season arc.
Yeah, full season arc. Each episode has an arc. I mean, it's come with its own set of difficulties in that, like, we're trying to put together a production, and so far we have like 12 or 13 locations in 8 days.
Are you just shooting consecutive days, or
Essentially, yeah.
Wow.
4 days, day off, 4 days.
Wow.
Gonna be intense. It's gonna be intense.
We went for just the binge like style.
And we want people to binge watch it, so how else could we make it?
Yeah. We want
make it all short time frame.
maybe the frantic binge worthiness of it will come through, of us making it will come through for the audience and force them to do it.
Do you have your cast lined up for it yet, or?
We got a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The main actress, Anna Silva, we brought on super early. I knew she was who I wanted for the role of Jess, the main character in it. And we've just kind of been slowly filling out the cast from there.
Yeah.
I take it people that you worked with through this program.
Yeah, a little bit. We did have a casting call last week where we met some more people. There's the good thing about it is like there's a core group of cast, but like there's a lot of like kind of day player type.
Yeah.
Because it's more narrative or happens over different locations. So we're going to then fill those kind of roles out, once we get a little closer with a lot of, more improv people from the city. But we did fill out most of our like main cast this past week. So yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah.
Piece by piece. Like each day is like you kind of accomplish one thing and you feel like bad about another thing. And hopefully the
You
good
guilt yourself into taking the steps necessary to get it ready to roll.
and hopefully by the time it starts production, like all the good things are there and the few bad things, you've kind of found workarounds or other things on how to deal with. But yeah, it's a process, and yeah, we're gonna get it out one way or another.
Yeah. That's pre-production though. Pre-production is just like, to me, I don't like pre-production. I think it's just horrible. But it's just you're doing as much as you can. There's absolutely no payoff to any of the things you're doing immediately, and you're just trying to figure out as much as you possibly can so it can pay off during production and post-production. Right. So there's never enough.
Yeah.
For pre-pro.
Yeah, we just did one for my term 2 where we had to shoot basically everything, like 11. It was 9 shots originally. It wound up being 11 when we got on set, but in 45 minutes. And because we were trying to do it with the sunset, and we were trying to shoot a sunrise scene, so everything was in reverse order of what it was going to end up like edited together, so that it would look like it was sunrise.
Yeah.
And so we were in kind of the middle of nowhere and next to a field and shooting with like a bed and a car and like all just. It's a dream sequence piece, so it's kind of surreal.
Sure.
But it was interesting because we showed up basically 2 hours before we would start shooting, just to rehearse and get everything set up, figure out where the camera was going to be, what lenses were mounted, where the actors needed to be, what props needed to be in place, what do we need to have plugged in for power, where are the lights going, like just all those details we had to figure out ahead of time, just so that so it was like a pre-production process on set.
Yeah.
And then we got through and rolled through all of it and nailed everything down in the 45 minutes. But it was so nice to be able to have that time to prep and get it right.
Oh, totally.
Because it made it work so much better. Like, I can't imagine trying to just do that on the fly and explain to people. Because there were 2 special effects that needed to happen in it too, where things had to be in the right spot and like camera stays on and locked and
the sun is one of the best actors, but also the biggest asshole because the sun is actually going to nail it every time, but she's only going to do it once.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's got that alcohol problem.
Yeah.
Alcohol problem? Wait, what?
She'll come back tomorrow and do it again.
Like all great actors and actresses.
Well, yeah, she dips down for the night and goes out and drinks.
That's right, yeah.
And then wakes up the next day and does it again.
And wakes up on the completely other side of the bed.
Yeah. But yeah, I saw images from that short you were making, and it looked really nice. I'm excited to see what it looks like because I mean, it looked cool. But I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it turns out too. We still have to do one more day of filming because we wound up actually not one more day, one more night of filming. So we get to try and schedule that after classes start again, which will be entertaining to try and cram in there. I'm thinking I'm going to try and do it middle of September if I can, but we'll see.
Where are you? What's going on with your project?
My term, that term 2 still not finished. Submitted as much as I can. I can show it to you guys afterwards, like where it's at. But term 3 just got a first draft out yesterday of like full finished draft, and it's a different. It's still based on the original idea, which is there's an old Looney Tunes cartoon called Duck Amuck, where Daffy Duck gets in a fight with the animator, and the animator starts like drawing his body in different shapes and painting him into different locations and all that stuff. So it was the original intent was to do like a live action version of that. But then I showed the script that I had to a few people, and but the difference being instead of the animator, it's the editor. So the person setting it together is actually doing things to the frame that are affecting the characters within the frame.
Sure.
And the feedback I got was, it's an interesting idea. There's not enough stakes. Like there's no relationship, which makes sense. In the original in Duck Amuck, it's Bugs Bunny who's painting all this stuff on Daffy. So there's an animosity that's already built up there through years and years of cartoons before that. And so I just came up with an idea this past weekend for adding a lot of stakes. I don't know that I'm going to stick with it yet, so I'm going to kind of keep that part under wraps. But so far I've sent it out to a couple people, and the feedback's been really good. Like they've really liked where it's going. It just I got to figure out how to. It's dark right now, so
okay.
it's making sure that I can get it funny enough to be able to earn the darkness.
Sure.
Otherwise, it's just going to be a really heavy thing in the middle of all these comedy films that are playing.
Yeah. I can't imagine like the pre-production and any of the steps, production, post-production of actually accomplishing that concept. Like,
well, and the original one was even more complex because that would have required a grocery store. Like I had in my head shooting in like a corporate grocery store, not like, mom and pop shop around the corner. Like
definitely.
I wanted something with the big long aisles that was super sterile lighting and just pinned down that way. And that was the first thing. And people were like, that's going to be pretty hard. So I started trying to get a hold of somebody through like Treasure Island around here or something like that. Could not get a hold of anyone that would give me the time of day.
Damn.
And looked online, and people that have managed to shoot in grocery stores before, they're like, we had to basically tell them we had like a $2,500 cleanup budget to say, if we screw something up or the floors need waxing after we're done because we damage a product or anything like that, like here's your deposit basically down for the space to be able to use it. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to come up with that for a student production,
I feel like there's two ways to approach any location, and it's that you guys are just so filthy rich, or it's that you're just so poor.
Yeah.
And those are the only two ways to approach any location.
Try and talk them into letting you use it just out of pity.
Yeah, exactly. That's been our.
Yeah, I've said this multiple times, but it's like a weird thing being out of school and trying to make stuff now, but with no money, because you want to come across professional, and you don't necessarily always want to be labeled as a student,
right?
Necessarily, but you also want to come across as having no money.
Yeah,
so it's like
you want to make it clear to
it's
people.
It's like this weird thing of like, oh, I'm professional. I'm gonna be very, very, like we're gonna be organized. We'll be on time. We'll be out on time. Like we won't break anything. But also like I am broke. Like I'm so broke. Like there's no money to give you. Yeah. So it's like. It's a weird thing. I mean, like we still can kind of use the student thing. I think that helps a little bit.
Yeah. When you need
it. But it is like a weird balance of like kind of being like, yeah, I'm a recent grad or like recently out of film school, but this is kind of our first project. But then you don't want it to be like they're like, oh, this is their first project out of film school. Like, are they gonna like fuck shit up? Like. I'm gonna use my swear now.
There it is.
Yeah, and then we're like, hell yeah, we're gonna fuck shit up.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's kind of been a learning process. But I think that's like it's good to kind of figure that out.
Yeah. What are the locations you guys are shooting with?
Whew.
You said 13 that you've got lined up for the 8-day shoot.
Yeah, we got some apartments, we got some offices, we got a pharmacy. We've got a lecture hall.
Wait, I am actually curious about this because one of my classmates is looking for a pharmacy location. What'd you end up getting?
We'll tell you after.
It's like a mom and pop, I take it?
It is, yeah.
That's what I expected.
Yeah.
We didn't even try to go to like a CVS or Walgreens. But that's part of the problem is like those have basically gobbled up any sort of like independent pharmacies really in the. I mean, even the pharmacy we did find up in Andersonville, it's literally across the street from a CVS.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like the only way they're surviving is because they have a thriving sandwich shop business in the pharmacy. Uh-huh. It's like you walk in, it's like sandwiches, like cold cuts, and then medication.
It's the best. We've been trying to talk to the owner for days, and we keep going in to talk to him, and they're like, he's only in between 6 and 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Mike had to.
I woke up this morning at like 6:30 a.m. to go meet this guy because he also doesn't, I guess, have any form of communication outside of like calling there if he happens to be there or showing up there if he happens to be there. Like there's at least no one was offering up a cell phone or
protecting that information
or email or anything. So it's pretty much like, come here first thing in the morning. I showed up there this morning. He's just reading the newspaper, having a cup of coffee, and he agreed to it, probably because we had called and talked to them so many times.
Yeah,
like his employees that they like were like, yeah, these people really want this location.
Yeah.
So we got it. It was a struggle. I really don't know if many other pharmacies would have like. I think the fact that it is sort of like a sandwich shop helps because it's like they do other stuff. Like the kind of like pure like medication pharmacy is I feel like a little more sensitive maybe about that.
Well, and the other thing with those is like especially for a pharmacy they keep longer hours than a lot of the stores otherwise would. So you end up having to then shoot like 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. basically. That would be the only window they would give you.
Luckily, it's only a very small scene in that pharmacy, so we shouldn't be there till 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Or else we're going to have a lot of trouble on set the next day.
Because you're shooting back-to-back days.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah, it's going to be a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hopefully I'm not just putting this realization in your head.
No.
Like that's something you've considered.
It's a realization I have every 45 minutes for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I keep thinking, like, why did we decide to do it all at once? Like, what was the reason again? But
the plus side of doing it, though, is then you get it all done. Because then otherwise you run into what I've got with my term, too, where we've strung out and still haven't finished that. The pilot that we shot that we still need to do reshoots on from back in, April? April, May when we shot it. Like, still need to do reshoots on that before we can submit it. Like, we've got the locations willing. It's just a matter of get all the actors available, get the production staff free, and then go rebuild the set that we had basically in this office building. But yeah, it's difficult to try and pull all those resources together again later. So if you've got it for that week and a half time frame,
and it's cheaper. You rent equipment and you can rent it for the week-long period, which is cheaper.
There's definitely momentum that you build too in like a production, even if it's just a 2-day thing. Like
people get the character down.
And
come back and
you kind of get in
over.
that mindset, like I'm going to be in this for these many days. Like, but once it's over, hopefully it's over. Maybe you have reshoots, but
it might never end. That's certainly how it feels right now.
What are you shooting on?
We are shooting on an A7 III.
Okay.
And we're using a Ninja Atomos external recorder.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got one of those for my C100, and I have yet to use it.
Oh, man.
Because C100's been fine. It works well enough. But, but I know people that I've done a couple productions in the past with other people that used them, and it makes such a difference when you try and go do color correction and stuff that later on.
And the color, I mean, like with the Shogun, because that's the downside of the A7 III is that it doesn't have as good of a color
gamut.
Yeah, color gamut as like a Panasonic. But with the Shogun, hopefully we're getting the best of both worlds. Yeah.
Interesting. So, so what's next after this, or have you even put the thought process into that? You both coyly smile as you look at one another.
Well, I don't know. I have tentative plans to move to New York.
Okay.
And lay low for a little bit. Be a barista. Because, the last scene of the web series is the scene where we have to kill a person. So once we do that, we'll have to both lay low a little bit.
What?
I guess we should have put that in the beginning of the pitch. The other cool thing about this web series is someone gets killed on camera.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
We were thinking we should do this as a special effect or with camera cuts, but then we're real filmmakers, so we want to do it as true to life as possible.
The person's a bad person, so.
We've been told that he's a bad person.
But no, I don't know what I'm doing after.
That is creepy and weird.
Segueing back to the original question. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of at a crossroads in terms of whether to stay in Chicago or not. It's a great place. I think when you first leave the school, you have a community and network of people readily available. It's a good place to kind of make stuff at that level. But then you're kind of well, maybe I should go somewhere else and kind of, I think just even changing location changes your mindset on a lot of things. When you're at the place you went to school, you kind of just have that mindset. I have friends that still live in the town in Santa Barbara that I went to in college, and they still are in the there's just
they're townies.
They're still kind of in that bubble in a way. I hope he's not listening right now. I'm sure he's not. But yeah, it's just a kind of a way of kind of changing your perspective on things. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna see kind of after this. I am working for a production company in Chicago. It's a really small one, Show Pup. So I'm doing work there.
Was it Show Pup?
Show Pup.
P-U-P?
Yeah, it's not related to dogs though. I thought for a second it was too. I mean, it is a dog logo, but it's not content for dogs. They do make content for.
I feel like you have a theme in your profession.
I might just try to go work for Animal Planet. You know.
One day I'm going to see Puppy Bowl directed by Michael
Schiff.
Schiff.
Hey, I feel like the Puppy Bowl people probably make decent money.
Oh, they do. That does gangbusters. I mean, they're I think the only thing that legitimately competes with the Super Bowl on any level for viewership during that block of time.
Whoa.
Because I want to say that's the number one viewed thing after the Super Bowl during that time block, which is not to say it's like stealing Super Bowl time other than maybe during the halftime show. I think that's the only time that they're actually like competitive.
You'd hate
people
to
switch over, but
you'd hate to be that one guy who loves dogs and loves football. I mean, what are the chances for that one dude that
why
they're
they make
both
DVRs.
on the same day?
So you can watch both.
It's not the same.
Remember Picture in a Picture when that was a thing? So you
Yeah.
could be
Oh,
watching
yeah.
both things at once,
Yeah.
and then that just kind of went away. I don't know that TVs even still have that anymore.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I guess DVR, like,
Yeah.
you can now not have to watch.
You
two
don't have to
things at
divide your
once.
focus and block out a quarter of the screen with some crap going on in the corner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's weird to think.
I don't know if I ever fully understood picture in picture. You don't have both audios at the same time, do you?
No, it's whichever one's is filling the screen you have audio for. But you could my dad had this on a big screen that we had when I was a kid. But you could hit a button and it would flip the two. Like the one in the corner would go to full screen, so you could go back and forth. So if he was watching, like he had the whole sports package for like all the NFL games, so we would have the one on, and when that went to commercials, switch down to the other one. When that one came back, switch back to it.
Right.
So it was nice, and then I think some of the networks figured out that that's what was happening, and so to make sure that people couldn't do that, they started like I think time aligning their commercial breaks on certain things,
Really?
so you like everything went to commercial at the same time, as close to as possible. So
Genius.
so it kind of took away that ability to kind of flip away and flip back.
Now they just have NFL Red Zone, which is for people with no fanhood who just need to see more scores.
I never understood that channel. Just like watch all the touchdowns. Cool. I don't really like. That's like that. So I think of football in a certain degree like chess. Like it is a little bit of a chess match with people beating the crap out of one another, but there is some chess match of thought process behind it of kind of let me show them this thing 6 times and then do something completely different the 7th time.
Sure.
Once we've lulled them into a false sense of security that we're always going to run the ball or whatever it is. And that would be like just watching checkmates.
It's true, yeah.
Like that would just bug the crap out of me. It's like I don't need to see them. Like I want to see how did they get to that point. Like what's the strategy of moving down the that's what I want to see as much as the touchdowns. The touchdowns are great.
Yeah.
But that's to capitulate on this effort being given for 90 plays or whatever before that.
Definitely, yeah.
I
So.
do think it's wildly popular though, the Red Zone channel.
Oh yeah,
Like-
because people are idiots. But
Yeah. Most people do want to just see the checkmates.
Yeah.
Show me a fucking checkmate. Yeah.
That's what I do. Is
Simmer
I
down now. I said there's some swearing on this. Let's go back to stuff.
I get people to film all the chess tournaments, and then I just put together the mix of pure checkmates, and that's how I track my fantasy team.
I guarantee you, if you Google YouTube like checkmate montage,
There's somebody that has
there's
a checkmate
that
supercut.
probably exists out there. Yeah, supercut of really great checkmates.
It's and chess players are just their own thing. I know some people that are like super competitive with it, and I'm like, I don't understand it, but I get it on some level.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, cool. Well, kind of wrapping up. If people want to try and track y'all down and see either the web series itself or even just kind of keep up with what you two are working on moving forward, where can they find you?
Find us on Facebook. Is that a...
Yeah, we have a Facebook page for the web series, Diagnosis Boring. I think you can even just Google Diagnosis Boring, and our Indiegogo page will come up near the top. And
What does Indiegogo run through? Do you know when it ends?
I think we have about 3 weeks left of it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks left.
20 days, I think.
So it'll be about 2 weeks when this goes up because this will go up on Monday.
Okay.
Great. So please, for the love of God, donate.
Search Indiegogo, Diagnosis Boring.
Yeah.
And then how about you guys individually? Where can they find you?
1953 West Winnemac Avenue, apartment 1.
You just give out your street No social media or anything like that?
Oh, right. I guess I do have social media.
You're kind of getting into the Instagram recently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Check out my Instagram. It's Franch_Spiro.
So it's like ranch with an F in front of it?
Yep.
And then sparrow like the bird.
Like the bird, yeah.
Okay.
And the famous pirate.
Captain Jack Sparrow. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can find me at MW Schiff on Instagram. I have one picture up. I recently deleted all my photos.
Why?
Because I'm going to try to start a...
He's got an album drop.
Yeah. You know how when artists like rappers or whoever just completely erase their Instagram if they have an album dropping soon? That's kind of what I did.
It's a title exclusive.
Yeah, so you'll see a whole concept going up in the next month. So yeah, at MW Schiff.
You're changing your format.
SCHIFF. Yeah, I'm gonna. Well, Instagram's hot, I guess, right now. I'm gonna try to really dive in there.
Well, fair enough. Well, thank you guys for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
Tony.
having us.
Thank you.
That was Frank Spiro and Mike Schiff. If you want to learn more about Diagnosis Boring and where you can contribute to the project, check out the link in the notes for this episode. Thank you to Frank and Mike, and additional thanks, as always, to the Harold Ramis Film School and the Second City staff for their help. The song on this week's episode was Communications Out by Derek Every off his album Pop Perspective. Check out more of his awesome music at derekevery.com. That's DerekEvry. This show is recorded and edited by me, Tony Lazzaroni. If you want to hear more from me and my classmates, teachers, and a few special guests, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions or comments, send us an email at filmstudentpod@gmail.com or find us on Twitter and Instagram at filmstudentpod. And be sure to check out some of my and my classmates' work at filmstudentpod.com. See you all next week. Class dismissed.